They came in and they wrote the jackpot up off of her card, and then they came and told her, said, well, the cameraman said...
A legend, but also one of the most controversial figures in American country music, David Allan Coe, has passed away. But what surprises many people is not just his death, but how the world is now looking back at the entire legacy he left behind. David Allan Coe, a singer-songwriter known for outlaw country music, has died at the age of 85. This information has been officially confirmed, bringing to a close a life that spanned decades, filled with glory, controversy, and an undeniable mark on American music. He was not a typical star, not the kind of artist with a polished image. On the contrary, Coe embodied rebellion, a man who went against all the norms of Nashville at the time. And that is exactly what made him different. Before becoming a name in music, David Allan Coe's life was full of turbulence. He had legal troubles and went through difficult years. But from those experiences, his music carried a very distinct tone, raw, authentic, and completely unpolished. He began gaining attention in the 1970s, when outlaw country emerged as a reaction against the commercialization of Nashville. This was the era when names like Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings were reshaping the genre, and Coe, with his unmatched style, quickly became part of that movement. Although he didn't always top the charts, David Allan Coe was behind many iconic songs. One of the most famous songs he wrote was "Take This Job and Shove It," a track that became a symbol of rebellion in American working culture. In addition, he had hits like "The Ride," a song with a legendary tone telling the story of an imagined encounter with Hank Williams, another country icon. Coe's music was not just entertainment, it was storytelling, it was experience. It was a reflection of a man who lived honestly, even if that brought criticism. But you cannot talk about David Allan Coe without addressing the controversies. He was criticized for certain content in unofficial recordings, songs that were shocking, even considered offensive. This significantly affected his image for a long time. However, it also raised a bigger question. Can art be separated from the artist? With Coe, that question has never had a clear answer. Despite the controversy, David Allan Coe's influence on music cannot be denied. He was part of a movement that completely transformed country music, bringing it back to something more raw, gritty, and closer to real life. Many artists who came after were influenced by his storytelling style, one that avoided sugarcoating and never looked away. He was not a perfect artist, but perhaps that is exactly what made him real. After the news of his passing was announced, the music community and fans had mixed reactions. Some mourned, remembering an artist who dared to speak, write, and live on his own terms. But others revisited past controversies, questioning how his legacy should be viewed. This is not the first time an artist has left behind a complex legacy, and it certainly won't be the last. When an artist passes away, the question is not only what did they do, but also what did they leave behind? With David Allan Coe, the answer is not simple. He left behind songs, some beloved, some controversial. He left behind a style, unmistakable, impossible to replicate. And he left behind a story of a man who lived outside the boundaries, in an industry that constantly tries to create them. The passing of David Allan Coe is not just the end of a life, but a moment to reflect on a journey filled with light, but not without darkness. An artist may not be perfect, but sometimes it is that imperfection that makes them unforgettable. What do you think about David Allan Coe's legacy? Should we remember him for his music or his controversies? Leave your thoughts in the comments below.